We appreciate you so much for being here, for showing up, for calling me and reminding me, hey, when we going to do that podcast?
I have a master's in conflict resolution and reconciliation. I had people ask me, what are you going to do with that? And I'm like, where is there not conflict?
And that's what prevents a lot of people from fully getting into grief is conflict.
Dude, chill. That's what we're here for.
Oh, wow.
Perfect example. I still have conflict and I still don't handle it well all the time.
Yeah.
I already knew that's got to have God in your life. You can't make it without it.
Welcome, everybody. This is Little Sister Chris and your grief therapist coming as a new season of the Grip Spot podcast here in Franklin, Tennessee, which is right outside of Nashville. So I have a good guest with me, a good brother friend of mine that is with me here today. And I just wanted to set the scene a bit before I get into his healing story. Again, welcome to the new season. And if you are someone who is a griever or supporting a griever, come right on in to the Grip Spot, grieve in peace while picking up the pieces, because guess what? This is real life. This is not a trend. So you won't see me in here dancing like everybody else on social media, dancing with the challenges. There's nothing wrong with that. But at the same time, I'm dealing with real life stuff because I am a seasoned griever, have been on this journey for 28 years. And the people that you would be hearing from have been on a journey as long as myself, or, just was started on the journey maybe a few years ago. And I feature so many different healing stories, from loss of fathers that you would hear today, to sibling loss, to other losses. So welcome to the Grip Spot in the new season. All right, you ready?
Ready.
All right, my brother friend here is with us on the Grip Spot audience podcast here. And I just want you to go ahead and talk about who you are,
right,
where you're coming from, and all the things.
Well, my name is Evan Chapman. Originally born in South Central Los Angeles.
South Central.
I go all the way back to my mom. I call myself a second generation peacemaker. My mom got her master's in conflict management in the early 90s, before it was even popular. And my father was a retired U.S. custom agent before he passed. So,
oh, wow.
So I'll go all the way back. I'm the fifth of six kids. So, there's a lot of conflict within that. So I learned a lot of tools of how to resolve conflict using personal stories that my mom would always, what do you do, Evan? She always pointed back to you. So when I first went back to school to get my degree, I have a master's in conflict resolution and reconciliation. I had people ask me, what are you going to do with that? And I'm like, where is there not conflict? And so they were able to answer their own question after they asked me. So they're like, okay, yeah, you're right. So it kind of didn't box myself into like just one particular industry. I can go anywhere. And that's what I do. I own a business, E. Chapman Consulting. We do conflict resolution, mediation, and I'm a certified mediator. I am a divorce care facilitator. I am certified domestic violence counselor as well.
Oh, man.
So Rule 31 for the state of Tennessee.
My goodness.
And yeah, so it's a lot going on. And to hear your story and how you open up to help other people heal, it's a blessing, because so many of us don't deal with grief or conflict until it actually happens, or until it's there, until it's right in front of us. Even though we don't plan for it, those are two things that we know we should plan for. You should plan for grief, because death is coming.
Yeah. And
conflict is inevitable, just like death. So I call them family members. They could be sisters, depending on how traumatic it was. Yeah. They could be cousins. But it's two things in life you're going to deal with. You're going to deal with grief, and you're going to deal with conflict.
Yes, you are. And sometimes at the same time.
Oh, most time they come together.
Yeah.
Package deal.
Most definitely. And you don't realize that in a lot of families. And we'll get into that, into Evan's story in a bit, because we're coming up on Father's Day. And Evan comes with a healing journey and story of his own father. But what we will acknowledge at this point is conflict and grief. And in many families, I have seen people who will stop talking to each other. And we've heard stories too, big mama's gone, big daddy's gone, and we have never been the same.
Right.
We've never been the same. We haven't figured out how to divvy out assets, or maybe they didn't have assets, they had debt. So who's going to pay the debt?
Right.
We didn't like this at the funeral, and all these different conflicts that happen in between people's families.
And it starts with a conversation. Conversations most people don't want to have, though.
Yeah.
Who wants to talk about death? And no one wants to talk about conflict either. So we're one of the most prepared societies. We have insurance for your dog. We have insurance for everything. But when it comes to conflict, we don't prepare for it.
No.
And I was the same way. And I still can be. Don't get me wrong. I consider myself a conflict expert, but you can also look at me. Have you ever put up to a hospital and you saw a nurse outside smoking? And you're like, what? How are they outside smoking? They know what smoking does. I still have conflict, and I still don't handle it well all the time. So I have the tools, but I don't always do it. But that's just how society is set up. We should all know conflict is inevitable.
Yeah.
Prepare for it.
Prepare for it.
That's what I try to get people to do.
Yeah. Yeah. And although we can't always, we prepare for, people's burials at times. Sometimes we don't. We don't have a chance to do so, whether financially or something happens suddenly.
Suddenly, yeah.
But at the times we don't, the grief feelings that we go through, we may have seen other people go through it, but at the same time, we don't know until we go through it. Ooh. And when the emotions are raw.
Perfect example. My wife recently lost her grandmother, and she shared a story with me. This is going. It'll be 15 years this year. We'll be married.
Yeah.
And during the dating process, I lost my grandmother, and I never forget. We were watching a show, and a little brown skinned, gray haired lady with a round face came on, reminded me of my grandmother. So I just kind of dropped my head and kind of had my little moment. A couple months ago, she was at the beauty salon. Pretty brown skinned lady, older lady walked in, reminded her of her grandmother. She said she immediately thought back like, oh, now I know how Evan feels. Yeah. So it's funny how you mentioned the having to go through it to really understand it.
Most definitely.
I mean, you can understand grief, but when it's at your door and in your house and in your backyard, and it stays.
Yes, it does.
The funeral will go on. I mean, the days after will go on, but it's a loss.
It is.
It's a loss.
Yeah.
So
it is. And if you are someone who has gone through that loss, and someone is a sole provider as well.
Right.
You lost a sole provider, or you lost a guardian, you lost someone who's taking care of you.
Yeah.
It can bring out a lot of different emotions. It can bring out the whole conflict in families as well. Like who's going to take care of who now?
Right.
So in your situation, so let's talk a little bit about that when it comes to your family and how they cared for your dad and moving forward.
Yeah. My dad was diagnosed with cancer. This is many years ago. He passed in 2013. But I was the only sibling that was not living in the same state. I'm from Los Angeles, like I said. So I'm in Tennessee, but I'm the fifth of six kids. So my 5 other siblings were there taking care of them. So I kind of felt guilty, like, man, I'm not doing nothing. They doing everything. But I had 2 of my siblings tell me, dude, chill. That's what we're here for. Yeah. He has 6 kids. You're okay. We know if you were here, you'll be working too.
Yeah.
And when you come, you'll do your thing too. So they gave me the permission to take it off of myself. So that was big for me to have that, to have my siblings tell me that. And it took that guilt. And it literally did. I didn't feel guilty at all, even after he passed, because they made sure that decisions that need to be made, I was still included. Yeah. Anytime they could include me, they would. So it was a great experience on that end. But it was a Saturday when he passed. I'll never forget. It was a Saturday, I want to say December 13th, because it was almost close to Christmas.
Yeah.
Same year my youngest child was born. So that's how I remember the year.
Yeah.
And I got a call from my oldest brother. And he said, man, Pop's gone. I said, oh, man. And then and he didn't even know the dialogue. He said, hey, but I'm going to send you a picture. You know, and in my head, I'm thinking like, a picture of what? He said, a picture of Pops. So I immediately said, I don't want no picture.
Yeah.
Because I wanted my memory to be what my memory was. But him being an older brother, he did his older brother thing anyway. He still sent the picture. Mm-hmm. And so he sent it like literally while we were still on the phone. He said we got off the phone so I could look at the picture. Took me a couple minutes before I even opened the picture up. So when I opened the picture, I immediately knew why he sent it. Because just a brief story. The cancer was tearing my Pops up. He went from this very active, cool, walking, bowling 4 times a week, still, you know, and to bedridden, moaning because of pain. The drugs weren't working. They had to go to different marijuana type.
Yeah.
So that's the difference. So I hadn't seen him as himself for years, to be honest with you.
Okay.
So when I saw the picture, it baffled me because it was actually the first time he looked like himself. The moment he passed, that picture was the first time he actually looked like himself. And he had a smile on his face. It was almost like a sense of relief. It was almost like, I mean, he was like sitting there like, whew.
Yeah, finally.
Finally.
Yeah.
Like, I don't feel no more pain. And so that helped me take away my selfishness. Like, you know, everybody, oh, my daddy, I want my daddy. But to see how comfortable he looked compared to how uncomfortable I seen him, it really, really helped me.
Yeah.
And so my brother knew why he needed to send a picture. He knew. So, and that really helped me with my grief. Now, you of all people know what grief and how it works. So it helped me, but there's still times that it's like, I succeed at something like, man, let me call Pop. I can't call Pops, you know?
Yeah.
Or even if I don't actually grab the phone, it's like, man, I wish Pops could. Like my youngest daughter is cheerleader. And then my 13-year-old, she volleyball.
She's 13.
So we've been at games, and I'm like, man, I know Pops would. He would really enjoy it. But he only met the 13-year-old once because he came down when she was born, but and he died the year.
Yeah, your youngest was born.
And then he knows my third. So
him
and Raven had a great relationship.
Right. And you even told me at one point you almost missed the birth of your daughter.
It was my nephew's wedding. My wife couldn't go, of course, because it was so close.
Yeah.
But Carson was born that next week.
My goodness. Yeah.
It was like, before I left, I said, hold on, baby, don't come to that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, but.
Yep. So it was a lot in that one period of time between your wife being pregnant, giving birth, and then
Pops was sick.
Yeah.
And it's crazy you mentioned that because at that wedding, that was probably one of his last big events. I remember even being, he was a lifetime smoker. I remember being at the wedding, getting ready to go. He snuck around the building to go smoke. And at that point, I think it was my other brother. He was like, just leave him alone. Just, you know, damage is done. Just let him be happy, or, you know, it's those things those conversations that you don't really think about as a younger person. But it's that grief stuff.
Yeah.
I'm glad you're doing what you're doing because you're going to prepare some folks. And you are preparing folks. But in the whole scheme of things, it just as a community, we're not prepared a lot
We
for
are
grief.
not.
And
don't have these
we want to
conversations.
move on to things, you
Yeah.
know. But yeah, it's just conversations to be had, and I'm glad you're having them.
Thank you. I'm glad that you're here to have this healing conversation, because this is going to be released in June around Father's Day.
Okay.
And I have been intentional about the guests that I've had. I said I'll stop calling them guests and say co-sibling or co-griever. So he's a co-griever on this podcast. And I wanted to be intentional about the guests, the co-grievers that I have. In that, when I first started this podcast, I didn't have a lot of men on podcasts. When it was audio only, it was a lot of women. I want to talk, I want to speak, and there was not a lot of men.
Right.
It wasn't until I started doing the podcast in person where I had more men saying, oh yeah, I'm available. And I wanted to have this conversation and have men, and not to negate women's grieving, but I wanted to have men on the podcast to talk about, especially Black men, to have a conversation about grief and how it affects them.
Yeah.
Their journey of watching someone be sick or even sudden loss,
Right.
and what that looks like for them, whether they have moved on and been fathers or their husbands. I want to know what that looks like and how it sounds for a man, and even a Black man in particular.
Yeah.
I grew up in a household with a man who lost his son. My dad lost his son. And the journey of grief has been very long. And there's certain things that I know that I see now in my dad that's still apparent, but I did not see when he was younger. When we were all younger, 28 years ago, I did not see it because I was so young. But now I can see it still. And he will mention some things. So yeah, definitely the understanding of what grief looks like, and just paying attention to men.
Right.
In their grief has been now my one of my sharpest points.
Okay.
Because y'all are really good with hiding.
Oh yeah.
I mean, truly, truly hiding, and sometimes hiding in plain sight,
Right.
but really much internal because you have stuff to do. You have responsibilities, all of that.
Responsibilities. You want to seem like everything is good for the good of everybody else, but you're kind of neglecting yourself for the good of everybody else.
Yeah. Yeah. Which can be detrimental.
It can. And that's why I always say conflict and grief is it's the same thing. It's like you don't want to have those conversations. I don't want nobody to be mad. I'll just leave it alone.
Yeah.
Same thing with grief. I want everybody to know that they can come to me, and I'll hold everybody else's burden. That's why it was so important for my siblings to tell me, "Hey,
Yeah.
you off the hook."
Yeah.
And so that allowed me to be able to really grieve genuinely instead of grieving and also in the back of my mind feeling sorry for myself.
My good. Shout out to older brother, by the way. All of your siblings. But for real, shout out to older brother that knew that you needed to see this photo because you had some resistance to it at the very beginnings and thought he may have been off his rocker. But this man knew. This man knew.
Yeah.
He needed to have this.
Right.
And so your siblings, especially your brothers, have allowed you to release guilt. How long was that when that happened? How long did you just put it down? How long did it take you?
When he first started getting sick, and then I was hearing about the things that everybody were, they're having to do. Appointments here, got to take care of him there. Let's go take him walking here, make sure he has this, I felt like, man, I'm supposed to be in that rotation. I'm a good son too, but it didn't take long because not just my brothers, my sisters too. Every one of them at some point told me, "Oh man, we good. Don't worry about it. Like we don't even do as much as we have to because there's so many of us." It's like that's the perk of having 6
siblings.
kids. He's lucky to have 6 kids, and so they were able to help my mom with things. Of course, she got the brunt end of most of it. So yeah, and that's a whole nother story.
Yeah,
you
watching her.
You see your spouse in one way, and then by the time cancer done chopped them and keep chopping and it gets worse and worse, he's not even the same man that you married.
Yeah.
So and that's a different relationship, but the spouse relationship and a child relationship, is different. So and she's opened up and let me know some things that happened.
Yeah.
These last couple of years, just to, because we talk a lot, so she'll let me know some of the things that happen. So you guys didn't know this was going on, but
Yeah.
And I'm like, why you didn't tell us? She's like, well, I was all right,
Your
but
mom.
you know how that mamas. My mom is the type, give her off her back, gentle as a lamb. I see my mom almost want to fight one time in my life. Well, 2 times. Both times it had to do with her kids. Somebody was saying something about her kids. Like I
Mama
said,
bear.
she's, oh, hey, how you doing? Very nice. You talking about my son?
Yeah.
It was a whole different, everything was different. I said, oh. And I understand it now. Being a parent is like, I'm parent and a spouse. So it's like, I could take pretty much anything you're talking to me. I'm okay. Mess with my kids, mess with my family, mess with my spouse. Then it's like, you're going to see a different Evan.
Yeah, it's a different Evan.
Yeah.
So, and I know that the world is getting more silver, right? Our parents are getting older. And your mom as a caregiver for your dad, what, from your side of the world, and your viewpoint as son, and watching your mom be a caregiver, she's a no limit soldier, by the way, from what you have told me in stories. But what would you say would be some advice for people who are in that role, who, for spouses that you see, that or even those that we don't know, who are in that role right now, that they're taking care of someone who is terminal?
One of the first things she said, she would wave so many things off. She's like, oh, I don't take that personal. That's cancer talking. That's cancer making him do that. And so that kind of helped me too. Because even when me dealing with him, hear him in the background, kind of like moaning and groaning. And that's how I knew my father was just as prideful as any other man you know. So if you hear a man moaning and groaning, he in pain. You know what I'm saying? So to hear that and to hear how she still interacted with him, it was still just nice and okay. It was never aggression. And one thing she said, if she needed to walk away, she walked away. If it got to the point where it was not hurting her, but it was just like she didn't feel like dealing with it at the moment, or it was something inappropriate said or something, walk away and come back to it. She's like, but she always knew when the behavior changed, it was because of cancer.
And it's hard for a lot of people, from what I've heard with sitting with clients, sitting with people who, especially like dementia or anything of that nature, where there's personality changes with their loved one. You just never thought that they would turn into something completely different, based on, how you grew up, or how the marriage was. It was really good. And then, something sets in, the terminal illness or, dementia or Alzheimer's or something comes, and they're a different person.
Totally different.
Yeah, and that can cause some conflict as well in families. I've also seen where spouses have left their spouse because they could not handle the caregiving piece of their marriage. It turned into something that they were not ready for. We've seen that. So that's pretty major when we're talking about grief. We have not talked about that here on the Grip Spot, but that's very real for a lot of you all who are listening.
That's why I still say I'm blessed to have all the siblings that I do have, because not only did they help me, they helped my mom too. So, and grandkids too. Yeah. So it was more than just my siblings. It was their kids, my kids, so it was a village to keep everything together, because it can get to the point where, hey, I'm always the one that go over there and make sure he's doing this, or I'm always the one that have to get a rotation. Yeah. So and don't get me wrong. In many cases, there is probably 1 or 2 people doing more. Maybe because they live closer, or maybe they live in the house. So that's another thing. I hate to see people arguing over stuff like that. It's like, that's why I'm so glad my siblings released me of that.
Yeah.
They told, don't worry about this stuff. So because I was the furthest away.
Yeah.
We got this. So, and then when I did come to town, when he was living, they would make sure they put me in, and make sure he got this, or like, go talk to him. And, so just little things like that.
Yeah. Cause you would have really, being as far as you are from Nashville to South Central, right? Would have been running yourself ragged to get back and forth.
I'm
if you
come
were
once a month.
Yeah.
Just make sure.
On top of having a wife and having children and all of that, a job,
babies at that time.
Like, that was no way possible for you to do that. But there are some people out there doing that, running back and forth because they feel some guilt, or they don't have the tribe of people. They're in conflict, and they're trying to just make it any way they can.
Ooh, that's a blessing.
Yeah.
Like I said, I remember the feeling of, oh, y'all leaving me out. And they're like, no, we're not. We're doing what we have to do because we know your situation.
Yeah.
But to anybody who is feeling guilty, you just do what you can do. Reasonably.
Yeah.
Don't put yourself in a bind. And I doubt your loved one will want you to put yourself in a bind that you're worse off trying to help than just doing what you want to do. And I mean, just like when I talk about conflict with meaningful relationships, it's the same type of, you're going to go above and beyond because it's a meaningful relationship, but not to the point where your life is not going to shine on it. It's not going to be negative towards you or your family or somebody else is missing out. Like that does nothing but cause more conflict.
Yeah.
So you're building conflict on top of conflict.
For years.
Yeah. Years, yeah.
For years. So I have a scenario here for you, Mr. Conflict Management. Okay. Let me see, or resolution. Let me see if I'm a family and I'm coming to you because the matriarch of the family has gone, and there's assets, there's all these things happening, and I need to get with my family. I need to talk to them, but we have barriers because people don't want to talk. People feel like one person is doing the most, one person ain't doing enough, all of that. And we came and said, okay, we're at our end. We're at our wit's end. Help us try to manage what's happening here. Okay. How would you help this family?
It's a couple of things. Since it is meaningful relationships, you have to look at it through a smaller lens. I would try to get people in situations that they can utilize their strengths. If you're not strong in finances, sit this one out, or, push toward the person that is. And every family has that one person that is kind of like more trusted. And I would have to interview everybody though, and see whose conflict management style is the leading. Because you either collaborate, you compete, you accommodate, you avoid, or you compromise. That's usually the 5 you fall in.
Yeah.
So you don't want the person who's competitive leading. You probably want the collaborator. And that's usually the person that the family draws to because they collaborate with everybody. So try to use that collaborator, use their strengths to get everybody together. And then you can't be one-sided. It has to be a little bit of everybody. Even that quiet cousin that don't say much. Hey, what you think about this?
Yeah.
What's your input? So that way, by the end of it, they can't say, well, nobody even asked me nothing, or so-and-so did all the things. No, that person who is a collaborator will make sure everybody gets a piece, because if that's their conflict management style, they get off on that. They're going to make sure they're happy when they're collaborating. That's why you can't have the person that's the competitor. Be like, no, I'm going to run this my way. And then that's when the courts get into it, and then you get
Yeah.
They take half of what you was gonna get anyway because now they in it. So,
Right.
yeah, but I was definitely say the collaborator of the family. How can I say this? Unfortunately, sometimes the collaborator can play games too. They know how to play folks. You know what I mean?
A little manipulation in there.
Yes. So be careful be careful with that too.
Okay.
It has to be genuine.
Okay.
It has to be genuine.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
like that person like, oh, I can call Aunt Susie and Aunt Susie can talk to so-and-so and then they'll be on my side too. No, I'm talking about truly collaborating one-on-one.
So there's cohesion there. Kind of reminds me of, remember that movie Soul Food when Big Mama died in Soul Food, and Terry, which was Vanessa Williams' character, she was like the person that was financially stable.
That's right.
Everybody came to her about everything. She was actually paying Big Mama's bills before she even passed away. She was making sure everything was together. It was a whole family.
Right.
But the family kind of just railroaded over her a bit. So I could see her being or attempting to be the collaborator.
Right.
I could see her. There's some competition in there.
But
everybody else, it seemed like they tried, but they couldn't.
And even with that example, the fact that she was paying the bills and they didn't know. It's all your delivery to a conversation. She can't come in like, well, I was already paying the bills anyway. She can come in like, well, if you guys didn't know, I was paying all the Big Mama's bills. And, here's proof this is what I was doing. To let them know that I'm not just trying to come in now. This has been a process that I've been took this on. I'm bringing y'all in. So, yeah.
Yeah.
But that's with any conversation. It's your, I tell my wife, I said, you can get me to do pretty much anything just about how you ask. And it's true. I mean, that's with any conversation, and with dealing with grief and grieving families. The last thing a lot of people are thinking about is collaborating. It's a lot of selfishness.
Yeah.
So you got to have that one clear head, at least one. Hopefully, it's more than one.
Hopefully, depending.
Yeah.
Depending. So, as far as families too, and even in that situation, Terry was saying that she wanted to sell the house. And that's a big deal when it comes to someone has died and there's a note on the house, found out, there's a second mortgage on the house. We can't afford this. Who's going to pay for it if we can? We should go ahead and sell this house. And that's where you have a lot of estates just tied up in family drama and conflict as far as selling mama's house, selling grandparents' house up from under us or not talking to us. So that's one of those big conflicts I've seen in therapy too.
Yeah, in family therapy. And that's a lot. Manipulation. Sometimes it's just finances you don't have, but you want to keep.
Yeah.
What does that look like? You can't just say you want to keep it and can't afford it. You got to come with a plan.
Yeah.
So it's that's a difficult, and that cuts a lot of ties within families just because so and so wanted to sell the house. I wanted to keep the house. Okay, let's see how we can do both. Let's keep the house, somehow buy her out or buy him out, and there's ways of going about it, but you have to have the means.
Yeah. Yeah.
And a lot of times we wait until it's a year behind.
Yeah.
And now the state about to take it over. And now, so
it's a situation.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's conflict. Boy.
Yes. And that's what prevents a lot of people from fully getting into grief is conflict. It prevents them from going through the process of healing because they are in conflict. They are in sometimes feels like financial ruin because they are looking at these a property possibly or debt that was inherited to them and unable to process what that means with other people. It takes, and this is statistically, it takes between 15 to 18 months to settle an estate. That's a long time.
It is.
And in between there, I have seen that clients, if they have shared a house, or even people that I know, if they've shared a house with someone who has passed away, they want to hurry up and run from the house. So they want to sell it immediately.
Yeah, I've seen that too.
So just to not make an emotional decision within the first 6 months after the death. So after that, you can consider, but if it's within 6 months, don't make that decision within those 6 months, because you might sell and then regret having it sell.
I agree. And a lot of times it's one of those decisions to kind of like move on, thinking that the grief is going to go away. And that's not the case. So like you said, is it 15 to 18 months?
Yes.
It takes? That's continuing to grieve.
Yeah.
That drags the grieving along.
Yeah.
The meaty part of grieving, because it's still constantly have to hear the name, constantly, talk about it. So, but even after the 18 months, it's not going nowhere.
Yeah.
You're still grieving.
You're still grieving.
Like I said, my dad passed 2013. It's still times.
Yeah.
It's like,
yeah.
I saw an old man smoking a cigarette. He used to smoke those old, the long brown cigarettes, Moors.
Hey, never
old
heard
school.
No Moors. I never heard of him.
I saw an old man with gray hair. Didn't look like him at all. He just is an old man with gray hair. I was like, oh, Pops used to smoke. It's the little stuff like that,
Yeah.
So it's, and that's not, like, I won't say that's a negative grieving.
Yeah.
But it's just, reminiscing. The reminiscing doesn't stop.
Right.
So,
Right. Because you are far away from home, what was that like with you traveling back home and Dad not being there?
Luckily, I had young kids at the time and my wife. So a lot of support, siblings.
Yeah.
And mama. So it was a village.
Yeah.
It was a village. And at the time, my job, they didn't rush me back. And a lot of times jobs do that.
Yes, they do.
That's
Yeah.
that's so not right. Even if you're not gonna pay the person full pay, don't say, oh, you got 2 days.
2 days of bereavement.
2 days of grieving.
Yeah.
Come back to work. That doesn't work.
Yeah.
And something needs to be looked at that to make a law.
Yeah. Some don't even have that. Like, that's almost a courtesy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's true. It's not even a policy. You're right. Yeah. But luckily I had a union job at the time.
Okay.
So they were like, come back when you feel like, because I drove a bus.
Okay. Yeah.
And they were like, no way you need to be driving a bus if you're not ready to be back behind that wheel. Thank you for it.
Definitely.
No, it was the union. I'm going to say that.
It was protected.
It wasn't necessarily the job.
Yes. Protection under the union.
Right.
A lot of us don't have the union to have that protection. But if you have built up days, please take your days.
Please take your days. Use them all if you need to.
Yeah, because conflict does happen while on the workplace when people are in grief and don't understand what that is all about.
Look, I mean, conflict is everywhere all day, but when you're going through something like that, it takes anything.
Drop of a dime.
The smallest thing would set you off. So.
Yeah.
And you have to be intentional about not going off. So it's that's why I say they family members. Conflict and grief.
Yeah.
They always with each other.
They live together.
They sure do.
And sometimes not in harmony.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And speaking of, by the time this comes out, I will have thegripspot.com. Okay. And you all listening will have the opportunity to download a free journal for the Grip Spot. Cool. So you'll be able to free flow, download that on thegripspot.com, as well as I have some cards, actually. I have Grief Spot silent support cards. So what you just said, when you're at work and you don't want to be bothered, okay? These are cards that say, I am grieving, I want to be silent, or I don't want to talk right now. Thank you for asking. And you can give the card to that person and move about your day. So you don't have to go into
Wow.
grieving. So those will be available in June as well for sale. My, again, grief spot support cards or silent support cards. Yeah.
That will cut conflict. You see, I always keep going back to conflict.
Yeah. Yeah.
That will cut it. Like, man, what's wrong with her?
Here you go.
And anybody with sense,
Mm-hmm.
it's still gonna be some fools
Mm-hmm.
that are gonna
Yeah.
And I can say fools in the Bible.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
God always talks about the difference between, he compares a fool to a wise person.
Yeah.
So yeah, that would be a fool to not read that card and say, oh,
Right.
I'm here when you want to talk.
Exactly.
Simple
That part. That part. And Evan, let me tell you where it came from. I was at church. I was over at Trader. I was at church, and I had known that this one individual lost their grandson. I knew it. I think they were stillborn, and another individual did not know it yet. Didn't know the grandson had died, and up until that point, it was like, please pray, for a healthy delivery, all of that stuff. There was an emergency. It was all of that. And then they reported that the grandson died in the class, but the other person was not in that class. Okay. So they were concerned. So in the hallway, we were all passing, hugging each other and stuff. And the person was like, oh, how's your grandson? And you immediately, like, I could see her facial expression, everything just changed. Yeah. And I said, I got it. And she said, thank you. She knew immediately what I meant. And then she went on about her business, and I just said, he didn't make it. So other person was like, oh my gosh, I didn't know.
But that's a blessing you were there, though.
Hey, I'll talk for you.
Yeah.
And that's something that that's where that concept came from. If you were ever in a situation where you need what we call pass interference, right? If you were ever in a situation like that and you did not feel like you could say it, right? Again, or repeat the story again to mannered people, but
repeating it over and over,
and over again, because you especially in church and things like that where you don't have so that's where that concept came from, to be able, if you don't have a person around you to do the past interference, that you have something to give to them, that I'm in grief and I don't feel like talking. Thank you for respecting my privacy. Thank you for being here. There's another one that says thank you for your prayers, all of that, and you just give it to them. So yeah, and I teach my clients all the time, when they want to go somewhere and they just don't want to talk about their grief, is there somebody that's going with them or going to be in the space where that person can be a past interference and say, she doesn't want to talk about it. They don't want to talk about it. They just want to have fun.
I'm gonna steal that.
Yeah. Yes, the grief past interference.
Because I'm thinking about the divorce care aspect.
Okay.
That happens a lot.
Yeah.
Where people, how you doing? How's your ex? How's it?
Yeah.
So that's a good pathway.
Yeah.
To be like, look,
here you go. All right. Heard here first.
Yeah. That's that's a trademark.
Yeah. Yes. So working on that. But yeah. So we want
that should be worldwide. I'm telling you. That's gonna help me too. The conflict gonna stop. You're gonna be taking some of my clients because
right. We're gonna take away the conflict clients because we have the cards enough to talk to people about boundaries, because boundaries is very much important.
That's key.
Yeah.
I
so
agree.
We have boundaries, communication, and all the things.
I love that. That is. Do you have what's the name of them?
They're called the Grip Spot Silent Support Cards, and they will be on thegripspot.com. I can show you those. I did not bring any with me, but I can show you what those are. I'll send you a picture of it. But yeah, my sample came on through the other day, and I was excited that they came. I've been actually working on this for 2 years. I sold my first set 2 years ago for a lady who was dealing with the suicide death of her son. Okay. And once she got them, it was like, oh my gosh. Yeah. Like, this is the best gift I ever got.
It's pressure.
Yeah.
It releases pressure.
Yeah. And she's someone who...
Without being rude.
Without being rude. Because normally when we go through things like that, it is where people, like, their personalities might change, you know?
Oh, yeah.
So they're not used to... In this case, this person had like this big bubbly personality, and she loved on people and everything. And then the suicide death came, and she didn't want to be bothered. It was like a whole totally different person.
Right.
So yeah, she was able to give away these cards and put one on her desk too to say, "I don't want to talk."
Blow that one up. So when this is going to be via a link. So I'll be able to send that link out to folks.
We can make it into a link.
Yeah.
We can definitely make it into a link. But right now they're cards, but we can definitely
a link
edit.
that they can order the cards.
Oh yeah, most definitely.
Yeah.
Yes. They can order the cards from the link on thegripspot.com.
Okay.
Yeah. So
that's huge. That's yeah.
Thank you. And
Great
more
idea.
to come. So so we can be able to have this communication, these healing conversations when we're ready, right?
Right.
Because in 2013, 2014, I wouldn't have been able to have this conversation with you, right? Yeah.
I was still walking around.
Yeah.
Putting on the not a front, but putting on my happy face. And then it hits you when it's time. It's like, okay, it's okay.
Yeah.
Release it.
Most definitely. So,
and that's kind of helped me in my fatherhood too. I fathered to the point where I like to build memories, because all I have is memories of mine now. So it's like, I'm gonna make sure y'all got a whole bunch of memories. When I'm out of here, y'all gonna be able to be like, oh, we did this. Remember me? We did this with that.
Yeah.
So it's crazy how that can affect how you father. Losing your father can affect how you father. So.
And speaking of, again, this is going to be released around Father's Day. So so I appreciate you being able to say that. And this is going down, being able to do videos for your girls to see, for your family to see, as long as YouTube exists, it will be available to your family. So, from now to 50 years, 50 years from now, they'll be like, this is where we all started. This is what we were doing.
That's right.
We were honoring our loved ones and talking about our families in this podcast. So happy Father's Day to you and your girls, and being able to be the father that you are, because it does look different now that you are without your father, but carrying him spiritually.
Right.
So any words that you would like to share with fathers out there that are without their dads?
I guess what I would tell anybody who's without their father, you're the legacy. Do what you got to do. And I'll even say, even if, because I have a friend who said my father wasn't the greatest. He goes above and beyond. He does the exact opposite of what his father did. But I'm just saying that because a lot of people do say, well, my father wasn't this. But I had a great father. Great example. Raised 6 kids in South Central LA. Nobody went to jail. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that's because Mom and Pops made sure we were structured.
Yeah.
Went to church. Lead your family. So that's all I would say to fathers now. Be structured. Lead your family. Got to have God in your life. You can't make it without it. So that has to be. And I probably didn't say that enough, but that was a huge part of my upbringing was church. And just be a good husband if you're married. But as far as taking care of your kids, above and beyond.
Above and beyond.
Above and beyond.
Yeah, your girls are getting big.
No limit.
Yeah, no limit with them, huh?
No limit.
They've got a good dad. They have a good dad. So we appreciate you,
If I can
Evan.
get it, they can get it.
Yeah. Yes, indeed. We appreciate you so much for being here, for showing up, for calling me and reminding me, hey, when we going to do that podcast?
Look, I already knew that's I talked to you before. Your trajectory is just
I appreciate that, Lord.
The sky is the limit.
listen, the Lord sent me some really good brothers in the faith, and I appreciate that because I need every single one of them that I have. So again, appreciate you. Happy Father's Day.
Thank you. We love you.
Yeah, thank you so much. We love you too. Love you too. And this is the episode that I have with my good co-griever here, Evan Chapman, and appreciate him again for being here. If you all are listening, please join, like, subscribe, comment, all of the things that you need to do right here on YouTube at The Grip Spot. Grieve in peace while picking up the pieces.
That's right.
Bye-bye.